Hello folks and welcome to the Monaco paddock here for F1 Live, your post-race show with me, Will Buxton, and 1997 Formula One world champion Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques, great to see you, great to be back in Monaco with an amazing podium of all first-time Monaco podium visitors and a first win on the streets of Monte Carlo for Max Verstappen.
Yes, it was good for the championship. I mean, we knew that if Max started in the lead, then it wouldn't be too difficult. He's been able to concentrate well now in the races, doesn't make mistakes anymore, and he had the car to do it. Surprisingly, was the speed of Sainz.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this was a race which didn't even see the pole sitter take the start of the race. Charles Leclerc's Monaco hoodoo continues. He had 4 DNFs coming into this weekend, 2 from F1, 2 from Formula 2. This year, he had a DNS, didn't even make it onto the grid. Let's take a look at the results at the end of the Monaco Grand Prix, which has seen Max Verstappen confirmed as the race winner for the first time on these gilded streets, ahead of Carlos Sainz for Ferrari, Lando Norris third for McLaren, narrowly ahead of the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, then Sebastian Vettel, a brilliant drive of the day to 5th, then Pierre Gasly in 6th, Lewis Hamilton with a troubling day in 7th, Lance Stroll in 8th, Esteban Ocon 9th, and Antonio Giovinazzi, who we're going to hear from in a moment, in 10th place. Just outside of the points then in 11th was Kimi Raikkonen, then Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, George Russell, Nicholas Latifi, Yuki Tsunoda, Nikita Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, Valtteri Bottas, DNF, Charles Leclerc, a DNS. And I said we'd have Antonio Giovinazzi, and we do have Antonio Giovinazzi. Antonio, a great weekend on the pace, in the top 10, all the way through, and points today. Congratulations. How was it out there?
Yeah, thank you. It was a great weekend. You know, since FP1, the confidence was there with the car. Yesterday we put together a great lap to go into Q3, and today I think points, of course, is always good, you know, for the team, especially the first point of the year. I think we could do a little bit better, you know, maybe P8, P9 today was possible, but still really happy, and a good motivation for the team as well.
And the intensity of this race, the concentration that you need to get around here to see the checkered flag, 78 laps. What's it like inside that cockpit?
Yeah, I think it's the first Monaco without safety car, so nobody made a mistake, and it's quite intense, you know, 78 laps. Try to be always on the limit, you know, with much more fuel in the car, so it was not easy at all. But yeah, now I'm a little bit tired mentally, not physically, but you know, of course, scoring points is always nice, and now I'm just really happy.
Thanks for coming on the show, Antonio. Appreciate it. Great drive from Antonio today. He's been on the pace all the way through the weekend.
He's been quick here this weekend. He seems lately to be getting the better of Kimi, so the experience is starting to kick in.
Now, he spoke about it a little bit then. I know Monaco was never incredibly kind to you, but explain to us the intensity, the concentration that you need when you're in that car. 78 laps a day, no safety car, full focus.
The focus is what is very tiring, because on a normal track you can kind of lose focus for a little bit, go wide over a curb, it doesn't matter too much. Here, the going wide is not over a curb, it's into a guardrail. And the track picks up grip during the race. You know it will rubber in, you know that your chances of overtaking are tiny, but then you get frustrated, stuck in a train, and normally that's when the errors happen, which we haven't seen today. Everybody stayed calm the whole race.
Was that a surprise?
It was, but the cars didn't look out of shape. They all stayed stuck to the ground. There weren't anything surprising in the driving. It all happened in the pit stops.
Yeah, it really did, and it was pit stops that ultimately cost Valtteri Bottas today a stuck wheel nut on his front right, the difference between potentially gunning for that win today. It was a disastrous weekend for Mercedes when you look at what we're used to from them today. Lewis Hamilton not happy throughout either.
Well, and he didn't have the pace.
No.
That's what is surprising. Even when he was in clear waters, he didn't have the pace, and then that was very surprising for him. Bottas really had him covered, but then Mercedes' bad strategy with Lewis. Normally they've been good with strategies, but that's when they had their 2 drivers up in the front. Now they were in the no man's land and not in a place where they're used to. They haven't been used to working like this in what, like 5, 6, 7 years to have a car running 7th, or the championship leader being 7th in the point, and they didn't do it well.
This is it. We come off the back of a race in Spain where Mercedes played the strategy perfectly, absolutely beautifully. Today they got it completely wrong. Pitted Lewis first, pulled the trigger, but the gun was pointed at their own head because he went out on the harder tyre, the slower tyre, and got caught out by the others.
And they should have known. This weekend they've all had a hard time to warm the tires up, and the hard tires, the one that they didn't really work on, it was going to take a lap or 2 to get it up to speed. and guys on the old tires were actually more competitive at that point in time, which is the opposite of what normally happens in races.
Hello, Otmar. Yeah, it was a crazy race for Mercedes today, a difficult race for Ferrari as well. Let's talk quickly about Charles Leclerc. What is that frustration like for you as a driver when you've put your all into a weekend and then you can't even take the start?
It's tough, but Charles is very good at blaming himself, of reading the situation, and he knows he biffed it off. He knows he's the one who put it to the wall, and the domino effect is he broke the gearbox. Now Ferrari took the risk. Was it better to take the risk to start in pole and win the race, or change the gearbox, start from the pit lane, and maybe luckily finish 10th? No, it was better to take the risk. It didn't work out all too bad. You know, we're in Monaco, it's a land of gambling.
It's all about the gamble, as you say. You roll the dice at the casino and it can come up with a double one, which is what happened for Ferrari today. But it all hinged around that accident in qualifying. Some people in the wonderful world of social media thinking that Charles might have done that on purpose in order to secure himself pole.
I don't know, destroying your own gearbox on purpose normally doesn't happen. So if he did it, he did it wrong because he hit way too hard. No, I would be very doubtful that he would have done that on purpose.
Absolutely. Ultimately, it was the defining moment, ironically, of this entire weekend. But Max had to put the drive in today as well. There was a point that Carlos was reeling him in. Do you think Max had this whole thing under control all day?
It looked like he was on the limit. I mean, this is the speed of the car. He drove on the edge, and the Ferrari had looked amazing all weekend, and Carlos was always quicker than Charles, except for that qualifying lap. And he showed his pace today because he was on pace with Max.
Yeah, he was. He did a great run, and another driver with a great run today, Esteban Ocon. Congratulations, my man. Back in the points, P9 here on the streets of Monte Carlo. I can see a bit of a smile under that mask.
Yeah, I think it's very positive, you know, today to be able to score points. Obviously, we've been scoring 4 times in a row now, which is, you know, a great run. On a weekend where we didn't have the best pace. You know, we struggled a little bit with the balance of the car in some places. Hopefully that's going to help us for future development. We really put a finger on the issues, you know, of the car, and I think yeah, that's potentially going to help us for the future.
I was talking to your boss, Marcin Bukowski, when he was leaving the track last night, and he said that qualifying had surprised you because you'd suddenly found a bit of grip in the tyres, but the car wasn't set up for it because you'd been trying to set the car up for tyres that had no grip, no bite in them.
Yeah.
How hard was it?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few things. Obviously, there has been, you know, some tyre prep, which was not easy to get set on here, but I think we extracted the maximum out of the car this weekend. You know, to score points in the race, to qualify just outside the top 10. There wasn't anything left, I think, in there. So, you know, we can be pretty happy with ourselves, but we need to find a little bit more.
Great run. Thanks for coming on the show,
you.
man. Brilliant stuff. How impressed have you been with Esteban Ocon this season?
He stepped up his game. He has a tough teammate, psychologically tough.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso. We know he's been the teammate destroyer all through his career. And right now it looks like he's having a hard time against Ocon, who stepped up. In the past he had a hard time to get up to speed, Esteban. And having had Ricciardo as a teammate helped him a lot.
Yeah. He's doing a great job this season. And where are we going, guys? Where do you want me to go next? I think what we're going to do is go to a Fernando Alonso interview. Actually, let's hear from Fernando.
Fernando, you were anticipating a tricky afternoon. It looked like that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah, it was difficult. I think after yesterday's qualifying, the race was more or less over for us, unfortunately. The race was not too bad. I think the first lap we recovered 2 places, one at the start, one in 10.3, taking some risk, but it was worth doing it. But after that, yeah, the race was a little bit boring. No safety cars, nothing today. So yeah, P13 was the maximum.
And you sounded a little bit surprised when the team gave you soft tyres.
Yeah, because it was 44 laps to the end. And when I saw the red color, I thought this is going to be a long stint. But they worked fine, and they were very performing at the end. So it was the right call, but it was a surprise when I saw the color.
Interesting stuff from Fernando Alonso. Good to hear from him there. As you say, it's been a difficult start for Fernando. How hard do you think it would be for someone of his pedigree coming back into the sport after a little bit of time away?
The time away is costly. It's not in a winning team. The car is not as good as it was, and it's not a car that he's built, that was built around him. And also, let's keep in mind he's done Dakar. 2 years of Le Mans and WEC racing where there were only 2 cars that could win, so he didn't need to get these extra 10th out. So hopefully he hasn't lost these last 2/10 that made him aggressive in the past. He needs to find them again.
Yeah. Let's have a little chat with our man Pierre Gasly. Once again, Pierre, a brilliant race, a really tough, fighting, battling race on the streets of Monte Carlo. Did you enjoy it today?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was our best qualifying of the year yesterday with the 6th position, and today is our best race result as well. So, place, was quite intense with Lewis right behind us for 78 laps, so we could not do any mistakes. He boxed and put the pressure on us. We had to cover him and kind of gave free track for Vettel and Perez, which overcut us. So we'll have to review that, but generally I think I'm pretty pleased with the step we made this weekend and be back right at the front.
Really strong defensive driving against Lewis. For us watching, a little bit of fun with you and Seb as he exited the pit. We didn't see the whole thing. We saw a reverse shot in the end from Seb's camera.
Yeah, look from my own.
How sketchy was that for you?
Honestly, I went to see him and I told him, look, there wasn't one more centimeter he could have squeezed. So, the straight, the going up the hill, it's not really straight. Yeah. It's actually like turning a bit, and I was hoping for him to give the space, but until I got there, I didn't know. And yeah, it was pretty close. It was tight, really hard racing, but still fair. We still made it, and I think if I would have been a bit more aggressive, we would have probably both ended up in the arbor. So yeah, I'm glad we came out of it.
Not so much a beau rivage, would have been a mauvais rivage.
Yeah. No, but he did a very good race. I was surprised to see him there. I don't know exactly what's happened. I need to review the race, but I was quite happy behind Norris in the first stint, and then we boxed with a terrible warm-up with the hard tire, and I covered Lewis, and then I saw him he came out right in front of us. So we'll still have to review, but overall it's the 6th position. I'm not going to be disappointed with that. It's our best result of the year, and I think we can be happy.
Great drive.
Thanks.
Well done. Now Rosanna Tennant is somewhere in this very busy, very packed Monaco paddock. Rosanna.
Will, thank you so much. Yes, I'm in the paddock, and the best thing about this Monaco Grand Prix was, of course, we had fans, and you can hear them shouting for Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris just got out of the car and they all went wild. We've got people here having a wonderful time. Who are you supporting?
Lewis! Leclerc, il faut qu'il gagne, okay?
Oh, yes, sad times, sad times. So that's the best thing. We've got fans here in the stands, of course. It's really brought the race weekend alive. And it's feeling a little bit like it used to, isn't it? Back in the old 2019 days. So people peering over the gates and the fences here, peering into the media pen, where at the moment we've got Lewis Hamilton, we've got Carlos Sainz, all giving interviews. So yes, it's a really nice atmosphere here in the paddock.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks for that, Rosanna. Sorry, we were just fist bumping with the driver of the day. We'll move further away. Sebastian, great race today.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man. Driver of the day, a brilliant driver, brilliant race.
Yeah, it was obviously a very good day for us to have also both cars in the points. We can be very happy. I think we needed that. It was a very tough start for us. Expectations running high at the beginning after such a strong showing last year. But yeah, it's a good result. We can't expect that every race, but Monaco is special, and there's always a chance to do something extra. We used our chance this weekend well, and hopefully we can carry some momentum into the next races.
And we've just spoken to Pierre. He said there was not even 1 centimetre left on the run up that hill. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, it was very tight. I mean, you don't see much, and he was not in the dead angle that I can't really, in the blind spot where I can't really see him. But we go up, and then at some stage it starts to go left and right, and yeah, I quickly spoke with him, and he said he didn't know if I saw him and if I'll give him room. I gave him room, but I also had to go in the pickup. I had fresh tires, so just enough, I guess, and I was just that quarter of a car to half a car in front, which made the difference breaking forward.
I know it's been a tough start to the year, but there's a little sense of because we can't really see your face with the mask, but there seems to be the joy, a little bit of a smile.
That's just the age.
It's just the age, it's the wrinkles.
The wrinkles with the age. No, for sure we are happy today. I'm happy. It was a great race, and I think well managed in the beginning. And the team, I think, had a great call to stay out, and then, got these 2 positions on top. So that was surely a great result.
Great run. Thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Seb. Thank you so much. Another driver who's had a tough start to the year. Is this the kind of drive, the kind of result he needs to pick that confidence up within the team?
Yes, and he chose a track where it's tough to get used to a car. And also a track that doesn't suit the car. And he's done really well this year, but it shows, the experience, it shows why he's a champion, why he's won so many races. When it's difficult, somehow he finds a way to bounce back.
Absolutely. Now, we are going to go back to the studio. Sam Collins, because this was a race today ultimately determined by strategy. And as Jack and I were saying at the opening of the show, it was a strategy that was called early by Mercedes to try and launch Lewis Hamilton up the order. And ultimately, mate, it ended up backfiring.
Yeah, absolutely did. I'm not quite sure of the reasons yet of what really went wrong for Mercedes, but I think they called it. I think they called it slightly badly, and I think what they got wrong was they didn't quite filter the car into the gaps. And when I talk about gaps, this is what we were going to talk about in the pre-race show, but I thought I'd bring it in here in the post-race show anyway. Now, these little dots you can see on the screen, those dots represent different cars going around the Monaco circuit, as you can see. Now, as the race goes on, you'll see the cars start to spread out through the field. So if you were the leading car, in this case it's a Haas, say it's Nikita Mazepin, he would drop to the back and be out of contention. So you don't want to pit at the wrong moment. Now, I get the impression that Mercedes were not quite as confident with this. As you see a gap forming now, this is artificial of course, if you were sitting in the lead of this race and you wanted to drop back in, you want your car to come back into this empty gap where there are no other cars running. Now, it didn't look like Mercedes had quite got that right. Because Hamilton was struggling for pace, he was really covering off Lance Stroll. Now, Lance Stroll was going a bit too quick for them to pit at the exact right time. Then when the car finally came in, they put him on the hard tyres. And as Jacques correctly pointed out, a lot of drivers were really struggling to heat up the hard tyre. That lost Hamilton a lot of time on his outlap, and once Hamilton got back out on track, loads of other cars saw him, reacted. We heard Pierre Gasly, they reacted to Hamilton's stop and got back out in front because Gasly had done a faster lap. Then, of course, you saw Perez and Vettel also reacting to Hamilton's stop, and suddenly he lost track position as a result of not getting those gaps right and also not quite getting it right. So Perez came in, he whacked on a new set of tyres, got back out, and he was back out in front of Hamilton as well. He made those hard tyres work because he's been out longer on a tyre that was up to temperature. That worked out really nicely. But there was a big problem for the other Mercedes. Now, again, this came down to what I like to call a little bit of pitcraft. In a race like Monaco, where it's a one-stop strategy, you will make your pit stop at a certain time. And actually, Mercedes came into the pits because they were tricked slightly by Ferrari, and of course it all went wrong on the right front. We don't know why, but that right front corner, they didn't manage to change it. They were still trying to take it off in the garage, and it was a disaster for the Mercedes team. So the strategy all went wrong from the word go. So Will, back with Jacques on the key side. I mean, I'm hoping we can hear from some of the drivers that have been caught out by this, particularly Mr. Bottas, because he was furious after that pit stop went very badly wrong.
The hard tyre, ultimately not the one to be on at that time of the race when those guys were still putting the decent laps in on the soft. A day of two halves, though, for Mattia Binotto. And for Ferrari, Mattia, let's start, of course, first with the heartache for Charles. What was it in the end that brought the early end to his day?
Obviously, we need still to analyze carefully to understand it was on the completely opposite side to the accident of yesterday. So it was, let me say, the drive shafts to the wheel into the hub on the left-hand side. So it could be as well completely unrelated to the accident, something on which we need to understand. So let's see. But certainly unfortunate, unhappy for it, reliability issue. It's not a matter of gamble on the gearbox. It's completely unrelated. And but let's see what happened and try to understand the lesson learned for us. Let's hope that at least we can certainly understand what happened.
For the folks at home, obviously when the car's in park for May, you're allowed to change parts that have been damaged during qualifying. Yeah. Had you found something the issue ultimately with it? Would you have been able to change it, or would have you only been able to change because it was a result of the accident?
So, as I said, what has broken is something which was not damaged by the accident, so on the opposite side, so we didn't change it. But let's say that all the checks on the gearbox itself, because it's not the gearbox that has failed, the checks on the gearbox was all right. And so again, I think we need to analyze. We have no answer right now.
And to the positive. In the day, Carlos, his first podium for Ferrari, a battling drive. He'd been fast all the way through the weekend. How happy are you for him? How impressed have you been with how he settled in at the team?
I think there is a lot of positives of the weekend. As first, as you said, for Carlos, for podium, for Ferrari. That's great for him, great for the team, somehow deserved, and very happy for him. And I think on the positive is the overall performance of the cars this weekend. We should not forget, since Thursday, I think we could have battled really for the win with Charles today in the race. And I think as well to see Charles under the podium, that's something very positive to me. So I think the team spirit is the right one. We are all united. I think certainly Charles was disappointed, but he was there somehow to celebrate Carlos and the team.
Lovely stuff. Mattia, I want to thank you for coming on this show, for giving us an explanation. And I hope that the podium gives some respite and some satisfaction after what I know will be a disappointing day ultimately. But,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Grazie. As Mattia says there, Jacques, you know, Carlos had a great race today. Are you surprised, though, still, that it wasn't an issue with the gearbox ultimately? It was something else on the car, that it wasn't found when they were going over that car in last night?
Because they only looked at the gearbox, but obviously linked to having hit the guardrail with the rear wheel. It's very intricate part of the car, and it depends at which angle the wheel will hit it. And it doesn't take much for the rear end, in other words, for a drive shaft or gearbox, and then you have to know where to look at.
Sam Collins back at base, I know was looking at the intricacies of what Ferrari changed overnight. Sam, I know you've got the full list there of what they changed, why they changed it, and ultimately two decisions this weekend that potentially might have cost Ferrari victory today. Take us through it, my man.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Leclerc made a mistake on his final qualifying lap and put it in the wall. It's not completely unheard of, it's not unusual. When a car hits the wall like that, particularly with the rear end, and it's a side-on impact, that has an effect on the rear end of the car. But I'll first start off with all the bits that they did change, because it's what they didn't change that's important here. They started off with the nose and front wing. Well, those are trashed, you saw that. The right-hand side front corner of the car, so that's all the suspension, the steering arm. Of course, that was all smashed into a wall. They had to change that as well. The right rear side outer corner, that was changed too. And that's really important, because that's all the suspension parts. It's the upright, the wheel, everything there. Also the wishbones, but crucially, they also changed the right rear drive shaft, so the drive shaft on the rear of the car. So you can see as he goes into the corner here, when he clips that wall, he's already broken the right front suspension, smacks it in, and destroys that right front corner. But what you didn't really see, he's also destroyed the right rear. They did change this. They changed the steering rack, the barge boards, the floor, a bunch of aero bits, all down the right-hand side of the car, and the rear, and some other parts around the rear. But what they didn't change, as we heard, was the gearbox. They looked at it, and the gearbox itself was fine. That's what they believed when they first looked at it. But then, as Leclerc went out for his lap to the grid, they found that something on the left rear, the side that didn't hit the barrier, was damaged. It wasn't working properly. They came back in, they looked at it in the garage and realised they couldn't fix it at the track. Now, something you can't fix at the track is pretty rare. They still had a few minutes to do. So I think it was probably the left-hand side drive shaft. Why would that have failed? Well, I think when the right rear of the car hit the barrier, the drive shaft on the right rear side, which we know was broken, it went into the differential, which is the bit in the middle of the transmission, bounced out to the left, and that impact, that shock force went all the way through the rear of the car and went into the drive shaft on the left-hand side of Leclerc's car. And the inner mounting point is where that failure happened. He suddenly felt, as he'd gone out, that's a change you can't make in enough time to get back out on track. And I think that was the real problem. So, Will, I think it was just all to do with shock transfer through the rear of the car. And it'd be interesting if Jacques ever experienced that, because he's raced just about everything. And it's the sort of thing you see in a rallycross car rather than a Formula One car.
It's ultimately, well, what we were saying, you take that risk in Monaco and it either comes good or it throws you in the drink.
And often, but often gambling has a negative side, and they paid dearly today. That could have been 2 cars on the podium.
It could have been a 1-2. When we look also at when they threw Carlos out in qualifying yesterday, behind Charles, in traffic, Charles already had the provisional pole. Do we think had they maybe taken a different decision on that, they could have had an all front row and maybe be looking at the win today for Carlos?
Well, it doesn't look like Carlos was quicker on that lap anyway. No. It's mainly Verstappen who had his lap destroyed by Charles' crash, but it turned out good because it allowed him to have a clear track today.
One driver we haven't really spoken about, who actually was a star of qualifying and had been putting in purple sectors looking great, was Valtteri Bottas. We've talked about Lewis Hamilton's struggles. Valtteri was actually having a great weekend. Was sitting P2 in the race today, could have taken that fight to Max Verstappen, ultimately did not. That pit stop robbing him of a chance of glory here in Monte Carlo. Let's roll, let's hear from Valtteri.
Valtteri, I felt like you did everything right in this race, and once again, it just hasn't gone your way.
Not really, no. I mean, I couldn't believe, what happened, and still feels strange that the others are racing there and I'm here. But it happened, and it is a big mistake by us as a team that we need to learn from. Whether it's a human error or technical issue, it doesn't matter. We need to find the solution, and if it's a human error, we need to support the guy who did it. But we need to learn from this. That's the main thing in my mind, and at the same time, super disappointed.
What was going through your mind when you just saw that they just, for whatever reason, couldn't get the tyre off?
I was kind of counting that, okay, now we maybe lost the place to Sainz, then probably to Norris, and then it was just getting so long that I couldn't believe it. And I think I've never had an issue that my race ends in a pit stop, so it's really strange feeling.
Up until that point, you had a mega start. Max covered you, and it looked like you had great pace.
Yeah, the start was good. Max, he defended, and I had to lift. The pace was good, but I think the tires of Red Bull, they lasted a bit better today, the soft tire, so he pulled a gap towards the end of the stint. My front left tire was draining. I'm sure with the hard would have been okay, but obviously would have been tricky to challenge for the win. Of course, we would have tried, but at least we could have wait from today with a good podium.
A rotten day for Valtteri Bottas, Jacques. A rotten day. It's not been the season that he would have wanted to this point either. Is there a point as a driver where you start to think that the luck turns against you and things aren't going to go your way, or can you just never allow yourself to believe those kind of things?
You can't let yourself to believe that, because then you just give up. He's been having his worst start of the season ever. He's not been on pace. It's been difficult. Things have been going bad. In Monaco, the track that really doesn't suit the car, and he had a hard time, Friday, Saturday, until qualifying, and suddenly he really gets a good one on Lewis. He's up there. It looks like he can fight for the podium, maybe a win, which is unexpected here. And this kind of problem in the pits, I've never seen. A wheel nut that just gets stuck to the point where they cannot even remove it. That's tough.
Now, I've just been told down my ear we have got a podium finisher with Rosanna Tennant, who is with Lando Norris.
Lando, congratulations. When you arrived in Monaco, did you think this would be where you would end up? And I mean that in a nice way.
No, simply no, I didn't. I mean, you dream of it and you think, right, if everything goes perfectly and you get a bit lucky, for sure. But I think this weekend just went a lot better than we thought. The car was very good all weekend. I had good confidence in the car. And when you put 2 and 2 together at Monaco, with making the most of other people's, misfortunes or mistakes, whether it was Charles's yesterday and putting it in the wall, or the mistake from Bottas and the Mercedes guys, and at least we were there to capitalize on it, and we're there to take advantage and get a podium. So I think that's the cool thing, is knowing that we're there, and we're there when an opportunity arises. But it's Monaco and it's a podium, so it feels pretty special.
Absolutely. And so what does this mean for the next few races as well? You feel like you're in a really good place to keep on venturing onto that podium?
I mean, we'll see. I think 2 weeks ago in Barcelona, we're a long way from getting any podium, so we got a lot of work to do still. We'll cherish the moment here, but if we go to another track and we're probably not going to be anywhere near as competitive, but it's just a good thing for the team, motivating for the team days like today, because they're going to want a lot more of it. So if they want it, then they have to keep working hard. And
how are you going to celebrate? How are you going to celebrate?
Gotta go to the press
Bit of gaming? Bit of gaming?
No.
Bit of champagne?
Just go to bed.
I love it. What a rock star. Congratulations, Lando. Back to you, Will.
That's how we celebrate in COVID times, I guess. We're staying at the same hotel, so if we see Lando, we'll buy him a drink. Socially distanced one. Of course, Jacques, a brilliant day for Lando Norris. A horrible weekend for Daniel Ricciardo, a guy who knows these streets like the back of his hand, a guy who's won here, who knows how to put a lap together. He said, I put together the lap. The time's not in the car.
Or in him, in this car.
So what's the explanation?
It's getting worse and worse, and once a driver loses confidence, it becomes tough. Sometimes a car just doesn't respond to the natural way of driving of a driver. And this car's been built around Lando, and Daniel is having a hard time. And when he got to Renault, it took him a long time to get up to speed. And it seems the same thing seems to be happening, but he's not getting to grips with it. And to get lapped by your teammate, that's probably the most painful thing that can happen.
Well, this is it as well. You speak about sort of getting himself related to the car. Does a driver have to be incredibly sort of changeable in their driving style when they go to a new team, or does that actually hold them back if they want a car that is suited to their real driving style?
Well, it depends. Some drivers can adapt and only lose a tenth, maybe, and some others just can't. But it's also the great drivers always find a way to massage the car, to work with the team, to get the car to respond to their way of driving. But it looks like Lando is really well inside the team now, and they will work with him. So that will make it even more difficult for Daniel.
So how does he pull it back? If you're in Daniel's shoes, if you're Daniel's shoes right now, there's a car that's not suited to your driving style. You can't get the most out of it, and it would seem that trying to adapt yourself to it isn't getting the desired results. And the team is, as you say, completely focused and centered around Lando at the moment. What do you do?
You have to work hard inside the team with the engineers, trying to get some changes made to the car that will help you, but also damage your teammate. That's the key of the game. It's awful, but you have to start playing the political game inside of the team when it's like this, and he's too far from Lando right now to get the team working for him.
Can that hold a team back if they are like McLaren trying to fight their way back to podiums, wins, championships, if you get an inter-team rivalry between two drivers?
Well, sometimes it pushes the team forward, like it did when Lewis had Nico as a teammate. Yeah. That really helped. When you had Lewis with Alonso, it didn't work. So it just depends how the team manages to work with the two drivers. But right now they can see that they can fight for podiums with Lando, and it's logical that the focus will be there.
When I spoke to him after qualifying, Daniel was frustrated and annoyed with his situation at the team. Let's see how he was after the race today.
Hey Daniel,
hello.
The end of a difficult weekend. I know when we talked before Monaco, you were super excited to be here. How are you feeling at the end of the weekend?
What was the last part?
How are you feeling at the end of the weekend?
Wish I never came. No, it was just, I mean, I'm obviously choosing just to kind of laugh about it for now. And obviously it was a very, quite a miserable weekend, but just one to forget. And yeah, from my side. Obviously the other side and obviously the rest of the team, they got a podium out of it and they nailed it. So congrats obviously to them. And yeah, it wasn't all miserable, but obviously from our side, just one to forget. Try and move on, and yeah, hopefully we find some answers, but obviously to be that far off, it's a bit of an anomaly, so yeah.
There were moments in that race though, I thought that your lap times were all right towards the end, and did it feel like you found something in the car as the race went on? Or?
There was a few laps on the hard where I had, let's say, some clear track. And I don't know the tyre situation, but I think I was quickest on track at that point. So I guess there was some moments of maybe some positivity. But like with the medium and stuff at the beginning, it was really just nowhere. And you know, I could just feel like I was just skating, and I just basically didn't really know what was going on, and trying to find the grip, and it was tricky. But yeah, we'll move on. Baku. Sometimes when the weekend's this bad, it's kind of easier to deal with and move on, because it's like it's so far off. You're just like, put it in the bin and let's go. So that's, I think, what I'm going to do.
Great stuff. Well, good luck for Baku. See you there.
Cheers.
Thanks.
while it might not be crisis talks, it's certainly going to be a very serious, very deep debrief for Daniel Ricciardo and McLaren after the Monaco Grand Prix. A race, as Jacques said, in which the ultimate ignominy of being lapped by your teammates, Lando Norris, hit the podium and Daniel finished outside the points. Let's hear, though, from his former teammate, Carlos Sainz. P2 on the road today, his first podium for Ferrari, his first podium in Monaco.
Carlos, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know, knowing you, you'd want the win, but second for Ferrari must be brilliant.
Yeah, I didn't say I want this win, Ricky, but I did fight for it. I wanted to put Max under pressure, but unfortunately the graining in the front left tire didn't quite allow us to put enough pressure on him. It's not like he's a bad driver either, so I don't think it would have changed much. Yeah, congratulations to everyone. I know it's a tough day for Ferrari. On a personal level, obviously a good day compared to yesterday, but I think as a team this weekend we probably deserved a bit more.
You gave it everything out there, like you said, showed great pace. Did you think at times if you could keep the pressure on, something could happen?
Wow, always. I also, it was a bit of redeeming myself. I wanted to show everyone that the pace I showed yesterday in quali, I also had it in the race, and at some point I was catching Max quite quickly. Unfortunately, that extra will or that extra keenness to catch Max meant that I opened a bit the front left too much, and then from there on the pace wasn't that good. But whenever I could today, I was trying to prove to myself and to everyone that I wanted that I could have won this race if I would have started a bit further ahead.
And so then to a man who has always looked rapid at this track, rapid but on the edge this weekend, rapid and pretty much millimetre perfect. Max Verstappen had never stood on the podium here in Monaco. Today he did, and it was on the top step.
Max, congratulations. I can see the smile through your mask. You must be delighted.
Of course, I mean, I'm super happy to win around here. It's such a tricky track and you need a smooth weekend, you know, and I think we had that. And yeah, in the race everything went very well. I think we looked after our tires well, and I mean the concentration levels for 78 laps is enormous. But of course, yeah, amazing. And of course, to lead the championship is a nice bonus. I mean, I've said it many times before that it's still a very long season, so we have to keep on top of it. But for now, I'm of course super happy.
So that moment when it becomes clear that Charles won't start in front of you, what's going through your mind? You're just trying to stay focused, not think about it, and then see how it goes?
Yeah, I just had to focus on my race, of course. I'd start still in my second spot, so I was on the outside. So I just had to make sure that I had a clean start and like basically cut the inside off. And I think we did that. So I was of course very pleased with it. And yeah, from there onwards it was it looked like a straightforward race, but you still have to manage, of course, your tires, stay out of the wall first of all. But yeah, it went really well today.
And how much confidence does that give you going to Baku, a different street circuit, but still a street circuit nonetheless?
Yeah, it's again going to be different. So we'll see how it goes. At the moment, I don't know. At the moment, I'm just very happy that we've won here.
Great stuff. Thanks, Max.
Well, that is your race winner, Max Verstappen, and Jacques Villeneuve at the end of this Monaco Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen had finished first and second in every Grand Prix this season until today. Are these the moments that ultimately decide championships?
Yes, they make a big chunk of points in the championship because Lewis looked like, even when things went wrong, Imola, he still managed to finish up there, which was amazing. And today it just wasn't going to happen. It wasn't working, the strategies, the speed, the pace, and that makes a big difference in point. But it's only a few points in the championship for Verstappen because every time there was a Lewis first and Verstappen second, it's a big gap. So it balances out. There'll be some mechanical failures later on, probably from Honda. It will rebalance out again.
It's going to be an exciting season. We're only 5 races in. When we look back over these 5 races, would you say Red Bull has the edge or Mercedes?
Red Bull has the edge, or Max with Red Bull. If we get Perez in the middle of the battle, it won't allow Mercedes to do the strategy games like they've been doing since the beginning of the season, and this will put the balance towards Red Bull.
And Ferrari, of course, showing their hand this weekend, showing speed. Do we think they can get into the fight this year?
Yes, they're the ones that might help the championship go one way or the other, depending on which points they take away from Mercedes at some races, from Red Bull at others, and sometimes maybe Lando and McLaren as well.
And as you say, McLaren, Lando in there as well. And this fantastic young generation of drivers, those 3 guys on the podium today, a new generation of driver, an exciting generation of driver in Formula One.
Well, drivers that have over 100 Grand Prix, so
they're mad,
exactly, they're not newcomers anymore.
They're young in age, but not in experience.
A lot of experience. I mean, that's That's 6 seasons with over 20 Grand Prix a year, 120 something, apart from Lando, who's at his 3rd season, or yeah. But the two,
still
top
getting
two,
there in numbers,
yeah, still getting
isn't he?
there. But the top 2 over 100 Grand Prix, a lot of experience.
Fantastic stuff. Jacques, thank you so much for your insight, man. Thank you for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it. A pleasure and an honor to have you as world champion on this show, man. Really appreciate it. And thank you, folks, at home. Am I camera 2 or 1? Where am I? 1, probably. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. Thank you for joining us for F1 Live. To Rosanna Tennant, who is off somewhere in the paddock, Sam Collins, and, of course, Jacques Villeneuve. My thanks to them, to the crew back at home and here on site. Folks, thank you for tuning in as well. Oh, you know what? We've not looked at the championship positions, have we? I'm trying to wrap this up too soon. Should we have a look at the championship positions before we go home? Shall we? Let's do it. Championship positions then at the end of this Monaco Grand Prix. It's been a long weekend. Max Verstappen, P1, 105 points from Lewis Hamilton on 101. Lando Norris, 3rd again, 56 points ahead of Valtteri Bottas on 47. Perez then on 44 with Leclerc, Sainz, Ricciardo, Gasly and Ocon rounding out your top 10. Behind them in P11, it's Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll in 12th for Aston Martin, then Alonso and Tsunoda. Giovinazzi with his 1st point of the season, then Raikkonen, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher and Mazepin yet to score. In the Constructors' Championship, a different picture on the left side of your screen for the first time in I can't remember how long. Red Bull Racing lead the Constructors' Championship by 1 single point from Mercedes. McLaren are 3rd, 2 points ahead of Ferrari. It is tight in that battle with Aston Martin 1 point ahead of AlphaTauri, who themselves are 1 point ahead of Alpine. What a championship season this is shaking up to be. Right, that really is it then, folks. Thanks to all the people I've already said thanks to. Thanks to Jacques Villeneuve. Thanks to you for tuning in. And we'll see you next time in Baku for the next Grand Prix in this absolutely thrilling season. But from all of us, we thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.